Kids and cadets, welcome back to Tommy Time. Thanks for coming out and checking out my Poulan Pro. I had picked this up a few days ago. Lady messaged me about one of my machines. She ended up getting another mower from a neighbor, and she said, "Do you still want to buy mine?" And I said, "Sure." So I ran out and picked it up for 20 bucks. I did not know it was a self-propelled. She had taken a picture from behind. All I could see was that it had a pulse-jet carburetor. I did not see the self-propelled unit. So I had messed with it yesterday, tore it all down. It needed a carb rebuild. I had to put a blade on it, and the brake cable was severely rusted. I had to put a new cable on it. It had difficulty retracting, so it was pretty rusty and stiff. Other than that, just a general cleanup. I cleaned up the engine case, spray painted that. Like I said, redid the carburetor, new primer bulb. And the blade was pretty rough. I'll show you all the parts that I replaced and discuss what you may run into with the carburetor. I experienced some surging and rough idle, and I'll show you how to correct that if you do the diaphragm kit on this pulse-jet. Let me get set up here. I'm a terrible camera person. I'll show you the blade first. I believe that this is the original blade on it. And I'll show you why. The severity of the wear on the tips. I just put a bolt in the center hole to keep the old blade even with the new one. You can see the difference in length in this. The old one had hit something, possibly. It's got a big burr. You can see the difference in length between old and new. So definitely in need of a new blade. I put one on it. I try to keep a large selection of blades around because that's one of the things that ends up being neglected. And a lot of times people run over stones, what have you, and bend the blade. Here's the brake cable. I don't know if you can see. This unit appeared to be stored outside. There was a lot of debris on it, even grass growing on the deck. So what happens is rainwater gets in the tubing here and starts rusting the metal, and then it just binds up, or it's very difficult to move. So that was changed out. These are 10 to 15 bucks. I have various lengths in stock. Each one is different for each style mower. I'll go on to the air cleaner. I think you'll think this is cute. I had noticed the air cleaner was stuffed into the housing, and it appears somebody took a household kitchen sponge, You can see the razor cuts here on it. They cut a hole for the center and just stuffed a regular sponge in it. When I saw this, I thought, geez, there's a lot of holes in it. It looks like Swiss cheese for all my Swiss friends watching. So I give this person a 10 for resourcefulness using a kitchen sponge in lieu of a Briggs & Stratton stock air filter. Hey, whatever it takes. So down to the nitty-gritty. When I had installed the new gasket diaphragm kit on this Poulan Pro, put it on, unit started with the new primer, but there was surging, and I looked at the base of the tank right in this area and found a lot of gas weeping. So extra air was getting unmetered excuse me, through the carburetor body. So the Poulan Pro is a 2008. That's pretty old for a push style lawnmower. So over time, the plastic in these Pulsajet carburetors become warped, and your gas will seep out between the metal tank and the carburetor body. So a way to rectify that is when you're installing your new diaphragm kit, the way the diaphragm kit goes on, you install the rubber gasket first on top of the tank, and then your paper gasket goes on top of it, and then the carburetor last. So rubber first, paper on top, and then the carburetor. To compensate for the unevenness of a warped plastic carburetor, what you can do is a paper gasket first, rubber sandwiched in the middle, and another paper gasket on top. If you have a plastic carb that's warped, paper, rubber, and then paper on top. The rubber will be sandwiched in between. So what I do when I'm doing a rebuild, I save all my old gaskets and put them in a used yogurt plastic container. What you'll find is the rubber gasket portion of it will dry up and distort. The paper gasket, usually nothing happens to that. It's pretty solid and does not deteriorate. So I just separate the rubber gasket from the paper, and I reuse the paper gasket on the next project. I'm very cheap, so I don't want to use two brand new gasket kits. So I reuse the paper gasket from an old rebuild. I had a brand new gasket kit here. Maybe the wind blew it away. I was going to show you a new kit. Here we go. So I'll show you this quickly and then we can start the Poulan Pro. I used it last night at about 7 to cut my own grass, so let's see if it starts today. You can see how pliable this new rubber gasket is they become stiff and warped over time. And these paper gaskets, they don't go bad. So I just separate the rubber from the paper and reuse this. You sandwich the rubber gasket between two paper gaskets, and that fills in the gap of a worn out or warped plastic carburetor. So that's just a little trick and tip on how to mess with that. If using the sandwich method does not work, you're going to have to buy a new carburetor, and these are about 10 to 15 bucks on Fleabay or the Big Jungle Company. They're not very expensive. It's just a lot of plastic. So there you go. That's it in a nutshell. Let me shift you over to the Poulan Pro and see what it does a day later. You know what? I used most of the gas last night. It's hardly priming, so I don't know if we'll be able to start this thing. So major dysfunction on my part. I pushed a little gas through. Hopefully it starts for a few seconds. Hell, bear with me. I'm going to put some fuel in it. I also changed the pull cord. That was all deteriorating and 2.5 feet too short. This is embarrassing. Sorry, kids. Okay, there we go. Pushed a lot of fuel in. We're on the ready now. Self-propelled works. I went ahead and greased up the gears on that, took both front wheels off and cleaned up any crud that was around the gearing. So this is an oldie but goodie. I have a Toro recycler with a bag listed for $250, and not much interest in that. It's kind of a high-end brand new unit. People are on budgets. They want everything from $80 to $100, I see. So this self-propelled, I get quite a bit of interest in these self-propelled. People want to have the machine do all the work for them. So this Poulan Pro will be a low budget self-propelled unit that I can put on, maybe get some interest in it today. I'll clean it all up for the second time. As I mentioned earlier, I used it last night on my own yard to test it out. So I gotta wash this down again and take some pictures. Anywho, thanks for coming out. You get to see what I did on this Poulan Pro. Changed out some parts. We got it all rectified. It should be a great running, dependable unit for years to come. Thanks again. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. To all my viewers, I appreciate you coming out and checking out my latest project. Thanks and have a great day today.